Hello, everybody, and welcome to our next session of Theology on Tap. As you can see, I'm wearing my purple and pink Advent colors. It's Advent season. We have a special Advent guest. Today, we're going to be talking to it's going to be a new friend of yours, but it's already a new friend of mine from campus ministry at STM. Our Advent guest that we'll be talking about vocation and Advent with is Celeste Woloschuk. Welcome, Celeste.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for the great welcome, Michael. It's very, very kind. And I'm very glad to be here to talk about stuff.
It's very kind of you to be on. So I'm happy that you said yes. We got to say yes. When God calls, we got to say yes. That was not how you were called. But anyways, I wanted to start a little bit with your story and for you to tell us a little bit about yourself, about your story, and actually that same call, how you respond to God's call in your life and how you have in the past and how you continue to do that.
Yeah, sure. So, my name is Celeste. I was born and raised in Saskatoon. I am what is colloquially called a cradle Catholic. So I was born into the faith. I was baptized when I was a baby. I got my first communion in grade 2. I was confirmed in grade 6, which was the tradition at the time and has since once again become the way to do it in our diocese anyway. My story, I'm from here. This is where I've always been, and I'm very blessed that I get to live and work here again. But talking about my vocations, there are 2 moments that I think are kind of cornerstone moments that I'd like to touch on, because of course we could be here for hours talking about every little detail of my life, but I don't want to do that. And I don't think you all want to listen to that. So I just want to kind of talk about 2 moments that were really, really important on my vocation journey. And just to give a bit of context, it kind of starts back when I was in high school. So I went to Holy Cross here in Saskatoon. And I remember we would have these days where they would like explain to, the grade 11s, like, oh, what you need to know before you get into grade 12. And then in grade 12, it was like, oh, what you need to know and what you need to do before you get into university or, post-secondary education, whatever. And I don't remember if they explicitly told us this, but like, it was definitely implied that like, oh, you need to figure out who you are and like what you're doing now, because you'll never be able to figure that out when you're older. Like it's set in stone when you're a teenager, and then that's it. Like you don't get to change that. And so I don't know if they explicitly told us that, but that was definitely the lesson that I took away from those days. So when I was thinking about, who am I and what do I want to do? What do I want to be? Who do I want to be? I thought that I had to figure it out when I was a teenager. And that led me to make the decision to go into pharmacy. For some reason, I could not even tell you now why I thought that was a good idea, or like if it was something I was passionate about. I have no idea where it came from. But that was my trajectory, my goal. So I applied to the U of S, I got in, was just thinking, okay, I'll be in arts and science and I'll like do all the classes that I need to do before getting into pharmacy. And then I'll go into pharmacy and I'll be a pharmacist for the rest of my life and it'll be perfect. It'll be fine. It'll be great. Well, then I got in my second term of first year, I was in organic chemistry. And this is not a knock for anybody who's like in organic chem and loves it, or, if that's your life's work, or if that's something that you really enjoy, like more power to you. I'm super happy for you. But for me, one day in class, it was like a February morning. It was freezing cold outside. It was really, really early. So I was tired and, we were kind of getting into the term and I was just really starting to feel really tired. And I remember having this like existential crisis in the middle of my organic chem lecture, just like, who am I? Why am I here? I don't even find this very interesting and I don't like it. And I don't want to do this for the rest of my life, especially if I don't like it. And I had this moment of just like, just existential crisis of what am I going to do? Who am I? Why am I here? And it took me a few minutes to like calm myself down and to get my heart rate back to a normal level. I I realized in that moment that I didn't want to be a pharmacist. I didn't want to continue that degree and to get the degree and then have to figure out a job and, potentially do a job that I wouldn't like, or that I wouldn't feel passionate about, or that I wouldn't be able to find contentment and happiness and joy in. And so that led me in second year to take a lighter class load. So I only took about 3 classes, and I thought, well, I'll try some different things, see what I like. I'll work at the same time. So, I'm making money, and hopefully I won't get too far into debt or anything like that. And hopefully I'll be able to kind of figure out myself. And I happened to go into a couple of religion courses actually here at STM, which I think is really funny now that I work here. But I was in a religion course and then a Catholic studies course. One of the Catholic studies one in particular was with Dr. Chris Rinko, who's still a prof here at STM. He's a great prof if you ever want to take a course with him. And I just found where I wanted to be. Like, I was really passionate about the material, and I enjoyed being there. And like, it was still hard. Like, the courses were hard. Writing paper was still hard, and doing the assignments took energy and a lot of effort. But at least at the end of the day, I found that I really liked what I was doing. And so, unbeknownst to me, the little existential crisis that I had in organic chem actually led me to material and to courses, and eventually to a degree that I really actually enjoyed and loved. And so kind of looking back on that, I see the hand of God kind of just guiding me through that. Like, oh yeah, no, why did you pick that? No, you're not going to be a pharmacist. Well, why don't you try this? Oh yeah, you like that. Great. Okay, let's keep going with that. And, so just looking back, I didn't know where I was supposed to end up necessarily still, but at least I had, more of a trajectory in mind. So that was the first sort of moment in my vocation that really, was important, and a cornerstone moment, and like a really light bulb aha moment for me. The second, if I can fast forward a little bit, so I finished my degree, I get a job. I was working at a church here in town. It was kind of my first big real job out of university. Like, I'd worked, for a month in the bishop's office at the diocese offices. And it's actually really funny. I was working with Bishop Don, who's now Archbishop Don Bolin. He's the Archbishop of Regina. And the day that I was going to start working in his office, like for him, was the day that it was announced that he was leaving the Diocese of Saskatoon. And I was like, I happened to have a chance to chat with him that day. And I was like, if you didn't want to work with me, you just had to like not hire me. You didn't have to like organize this whole thing with the Pope to like get moved. And thankfully he laughed. Like, God bless you, Archbishop Don, for laughing that day. But yeah, so I'd worked there, but I hadn't really found any stable employment, and that was really stressing me out. But then an opportunity came for me to take over a mat leave as a receptionist at a church in town. So I jumped at it. I thought, this will be my foot in the door. I can get some experience, a little bit of, something on my resume. It'll be great. So I went there, and the mat leave turned into a couple of years of work for me, which was really wonderful. And I'm so grateful to all the people that I worked with at the church there. They were all so loving and kind to me, but I kind of knew from the beginning that I wouldn't be there forever. While I was working, I doing a lot of admin work, and that was fine. And, it was important work. It needed to be done. But I found that the times that I was able to do like ministry things or pastoral things, like working with people and trying to be, the presence of God, or like to let God work through me in those moments, that's when I really, it just felt right. And so I knew that I wouldn't be in an admin position forever. And I remember one day I was getting the bulletin ready, and I saw the ad for, the STM campus ministry position. And there was this little voice in my heart that said, that's going to be you, get ready. And then there were all these voices in the rest of me, in my head and my heart, that were like, what? And like, I kind of had this little panic moment. But I knew it was God saying to me, this is the kind of thing that you're going to be doing. you know that you love ministry. I'm going to be there with you. You're going to be fine, but you need to start getting ready. And so that's what led me to where I am now, which is STM Campus Ministry. And, kind of when I was reflecting on this question, I was thinking my vocation story is pretty like early chapters right now. I still have a long way to go, but I know that I'm in the place that I need to be right now. And just knowing that God called me here, and being able to hear that call and understand it for what it was, it has been really, really powerful for me. So even in moments where, I find that I'm tired or that I find, the work difficult, I know that God has got my back and that this is where I need to be right now. And so I'm very grateful for that. And I'm very, very grateful for my colleagues, Michael, of whom you are one, who are just, again, so gracious and kind to me and who are so willing to teach me. And so, yeah, that's kind of where my vocation story is right now. And yeah, it's one of those things. Here we are. And gosh, it's been a ride so far. I can't wait to see the rest of it.
Well, we're so happy to be able to work with you. And when you were recounting that story and talking about how get ready, I was thinking, well, that's what we're doing in Advent. We got to get ready. But also to know that God is with us and we really don't have to be afraid, that we can really just kind of relax into where we are and know that God is walking with us and God is calling us to big things. And so speaking of the things that God calls us to, God gives us all gifts and talents, and you are a very talented musician. And I was just wondering if you could talk a little bit about how you kind of sort of discern what your gifts and talents were and how did you kind of develop them? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, for sure. So, when I think about my gifts and talents and how either they've led me to where I am now or how they've served me and where I am now, I really think back, and I think back of, all the jobs that I've had up until this point and how, it wasn't where I thought I would end up necessarily. Like if you had told me either in high school, again, I thought I was going to be a pharmacist, or, university, even when I was doing my theology degree, if you would have told me that I would be here, I probably would have laughed a little bit. Like I had no concept that this is where I was going to be. But looking back, I really see how the jobs that I've had and the education that I've been able to enjoy have really prepared me in a lot of ways for this. And it reminds me actually of a story that my dad told me way back in the day when I was still freaking out about being a pharmacist, and how I didn't know if I wanted to do that. No. My dad, who used to be, he went to the SEM when he was younger, the seminary. So he was studying to potentially become a priest. He, of course, left because if he hadn't, I wouldn't be here. Thanks, Dad. He told me a story one time of someone he knew when he was in seminary. It was a priest friend of his who, when his friend was in high school, he had the opportunity to take this course on small motor mechanics. So like doing boat motors and ATVs and like lawnmowers, things like that, little things that have tiny motors, but still require maintenance and things like that. And the way this guy kind of told his story to my dad, he's like, I was taking this course and I thought, oh, like, what's the point? And, it's not going to do anything, but I guess I'll take it, whatever, I kind of have to. And then he ended up becoming a priest, and he was sent to a pretty remote community, I guess more in the north, where like it's a pretty isolated community and most of the transportation happens by boat. And so this guy who wasn't from the north, he had never really been there. He thought, how am I going to, reach out to these people and gain their trust and their confidence? How am I going to be able to minister to these people if our lives and our histories so far have been so different? And as it turned out, that course that he took in high school on small boat, like motor mechanics, actually really helped him, because he had, parishioners and people in the community who say, oh, my boat's broken and I'm trying to get it fixed, but I can't. And, we don't have the parts or anything. And so he kind of said, well, could I take a look at it? Like, I'd be happy to take a look. I took this course, like, I'd be happy to. And that's actually how he was able to reach out to the people and be able to gain their confidence and their trust. And, so while hey, Father, my boat's broken, you mind taking a look at it? And he'd go, yeah, sure. And then they just start talking. And all of a sudden, people would be just talking to him about life and their experience, and opening up to him about, what was going on in their lives, what was joyful, but what was sorrowful, what was difficult. And he actually was able to minister to them through that, mechanic work that he had learned. And so, when I think about my gifts and talents and how they've led me here, like, Michael, you're very kind calling me a musician. Music has always been a really big part of my life, and I've always really loved it and enjoyed it. But the way that it has helped me in my ministry, but also in my, my own faith life and my self-care, I could have never imagined when I was, taking my grade 5 piano exam, that it would be so important and such a big part of my life. And, if you had told me when I was a cashier at one of the local grocery stores that the skills that I was learning, doing that customer service job would help me be a better minister in a pastoral place, that would have blown my mind. You learn a lot of like diplomacy skills and a lot of, patience and listening, and because people, first and foremost need to be heard. And so, those kinds of skills that I never would have thought would be important have turned out to be vital. And so I think, for someone who is maybe earlier on in their vocation path than even I am, look at all the things that you've learned and take every opportunity that you can to learn, and know that education that you get, that experience, is never going to go to waste. There's always going to be somewhere that you're going to be able to use that information. But also, vocation is not just about the destination, it's also about the journey. And so, maybe there are some people where, they've known from, birth that they wanted to be a doctor, and then they study and they become a doctor, and it's everything that they ever wanted and everything they've ever felt called to do. And that's great. That's beautiful. That's wonderful. And if that's your experience, like, congratulations, that's awesome. I'm so glad that you're able to find that and have that for yourself. But for some of us, for kind of the rest of us, it's going to be a bit of a journey. And so allowing yourself to be guided by things like what gives you joy, what helps you feel content in life, what makes you really passionate or makes you feel fulfilled at the end of the day, helps you kind of get up in the morning and keep going. Those are the things that are going to lead you on your vocation journey, and that are going to help you kind of figure out where you're supposed to be. At least that's what's helped me. And so I hope that if that's something that helps you, many blessings as you go on your journey. So yeah, that's what you got to do as far as I have experienced.
Use your education and experiences. That's the experience. Yeah, it all prepares us. It's interesting that we're talking about preparation, because Advent is the season of preparation. And sure. I was wondering if you could share with us a little bit about your feelings about the Advent season. Do you have favorite things about this liturgical season? Do you want to tell us about?
Yeah, I do. I didn't kind of used to like Lent when I was in university. So I've kind of really come around to it now that I'm no longer, on a study schedule where, end of November, early December is like stress time. So what I really, really love about Advent that I've discovered again in the last few years is just the sense of like the whole world is almost like it's holding its breath. Just, getting ready, and there's this anticipation and this joy that's, coming. And I just love that about Advent. It's just one of my favorite parts about it. But one thing that is unique to Advent, and it's actually a family tradition of ours, and it's grown in the last few years, is actually the calendar behind me. So I'll just kind of move out of the way. So you can see this is our Rejoice calendar. It's a December calendar. It has 25 little felt figures with Velcro on the back, and it's all felt here. So the Velcro kind of sticks to it. And every day in December, we get to add a new thing. So you'll see number 1 was our little manger, our creche area. Number 2 is our star. And then 3 through 8, we have the trees. We have 9, 10, and 11 are sheep. I got a little sheep here who's having a bath. And now we're into the kings and camels. So it's really exciting. We have kings and camels, and then we have angels, and then we have Joseph, Mary, and Jesus. And Jesus will come on the 25th. So yeah, that calendar is definitely one of my favorite parts of Advent. It's something that we had when I was a kid, which made dealing with December a lot easier, I think mostly for my parents, but also for us kids, because, you know, there wasn't how many more days until Christmas. We'd be like, okay, we just put the creche up today. It's going to be a while. And then, you know, okay, we're still in the trees. Like we got a long way to wait yet before Christmas. But then like once you get into the angels, it's like, we're almost there. And so like as a kid, that was something that I loved. And, you know, putting up the different figures and deciding where they're going to go and what their backstories are. And in the last few years, my mother and my aunt, her sister, have also made calendars. So the reason that I have a calendar is because my mom actually made me one, which is so special and so sweet. And I'm so grateful to my mother for that. And what it's actually enabled us to do. So my mom made one for myself and my 2 brothers, and my aunt made one for her 3 children, my 3 cousins. And so the 6 of our families, as well as a couple families on my dad's side, but in particular, that's the whole of my mom's side of the family. And so the 6 of us cousins, and then of course my mom and dad have this calendar. And so what we do now is, you know, every day or 2, we take pictures of our calendars and show, oh, where are we at? Or like, where are your kings and camels hanging out? And some of my cousins have little kids, and seeing where they put things is it's just a joy. It's so amazing. Like this year we had one of the calendars has the trees all up on one of the hills. So it's a very tree-filled hillside. We have a sheep who is on top of one of the trees for some reason. We're wondering if maybe it's one of the goats that lives in a tree that I heard about today. You never know. But the thing I love about it is that like the little kids, especially, you know, they're about 6, 5, and then 3 and 2 and just little. They all have like the backstory figured out. And some of them that are more like they have maybe more logical brains. They have a whole understanding of the entire layout. They know where everything's going to go. But then they have siblings who are just like, the star's going here. And they're like, no, it can't go there. That ruins the backstory. And, you know, it's such a beautiful way for us to stay in touch, but also for me as an adult to get to connect and to understand my cousin's kids a little bit better, and to see, you know, their world and into their mind and get to know them a little bit more. So it's been a real blessing, not only for myself, but also for us as a family.
That is such a fun family tradition, and such a fun way to stay in touch and compare notes on the felt where everything's happening. Okay, tell me, are there other family traditions that you folks have for Advent and Christmas?
Yeah, for Christmas especially, I think probably my favorite family tradition is, you know, I'm musical, but my entire family really is very musical. So my mom plays piano, my father plays guitar and he sings, and my 2 brothers, my sister-in-law and myself, we are all singers and we play different instruments. And so one of my favorite parts about Advent, but mostly I think Christmas as well, is when we're all together as a family. And we usually go and we do music at our parish, our home parish, or my parents' parish. We do it Christmas Eve, the later mass. You know, it's kind of the faux midnight mass, because it's not at midnight anymore, but you know, so we can be there at, you know, 8 o'clock instead of, you know, until 3 in the morning. But we go and we do music together, and, just the joy of being able to do that music together and to, you know, be in 3-4 part harmonies and to have the different instruments. And very excited this year to see how it looks with my new little nephew. He's only going to be 8 months old for his first Christmas here, so we're very excited to see how that goes. But yeah, so we do music at Mass, and then we go home and we enjoy some food and some fellowship together, and then we open presents, our gifts to each other, you know, from each other. So that's just a great time. And then we, you know, end off the day sometimes by playing cards or, you know, just talking about stuff and talking about life. And then we all go to bed, and then we get to, you know, celebrate more Christmas the next day. So yeah, I think that's probably my favorite tradition, kind of it's inspired by our French heritage, Réveillon, which would have midnight Mass, and then you'd party all night and then go to bed at, you know, some silly hour of the morning. And so, yeah, it's our own little version of Réveillon for us Woloschuks.
Right. That classic French name.
Yes. Yeah, it's interesting when your name is Celeste Woloschuk, because people are like, neither of those go together. It's like, I know. It's French and Ukrainian, like, just, it'll be okay. Welcome to Canada, you know.
I know what you mean. My name in the Ukrainian dancing program, McLean, always stuck up like a sore thumb.
Yeah.
This is really exciting to talk about Advent and Christmas, because it is such an exciting time of year, and it sounds like there's lots of things that are really good stuff is going on. Are there other good things that you wanted to share about today?
Yeah, I think probably the one that I want to share the most is I'm really finding a lot of joy in my little nephew. Becoming an adult hasn't been exactly what I assumed it was going to be when I was younger. And so kind of getting, you know, used to being an adult and learning what it is to be an adult has been a really interesting journey as well. But definitely one of the biggest highlights that's come in recently is being an auntie, getting to see this little person as he grows and develops, and being, you know, one of those people that's, you know, right there in the thick of it has been so wonderful. And so for any of our, you know, students who are maybe watching, if you haven't already experienced being an auntie or an uncle or whatever, you know, maybe you call yourself in a different tradition, it's, oh my gosh, it's so much fun. And so I'm super excited about that. And yeah, I just love the little guy. He's just the cutest little wonderful thing. And so, yeah, I got to see pictures the other day of him putting the star on their family calendar. So that was always my brother's thing. He always liked putting on the star. And so now getting to see my nephew do it with my brother, it was like, I'm going to cry now. It's so cute. So.
That's very, very sweet. I'll ask you also, we're talking about good things happening now, but are there anything that you're looking forward to in the new year?
I don't know. Life has been just really, as I'm sure everyone is aware, it's been very interesting and very bizarre of late. And I'm looking forward to probably just more opportunities to get to be kind of back to normal a little bit. So things like visiting my grandma again, you know, now that she's had, you know, her booster and everything, getting to just be with her and be in her just wonderful, loving presence. And yeah, just more getting to see my family and hang out with my nephew and watch him as he grows and develops even more. And yeah, just, you know, really enjoy those little things in life that seem so mundane, but really are, I find where the joy and the love and the laughter is. That's where like the real good stuff of life is, in those little mundane things. So I'm looking forward to that. Just hopefully getting to return a little bit to our old sense of normalcy, but you know, back to those good things that I used to love pre-pandemic as well. So yeah,
sounds good. It sounds like we could all use a little bit more normal in our life, and hopefully that's where we're moving. And I have to say, Celeste, this has just been so pleasant. I get to see you all the time, but I wanted to make sure that the whole Theology on Tap crew got to hear a little bit about your story as well. And I just want to thank you so much for being with us today.
Well, it's my pleasure. And yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's wonderful to be able to reach out to people and to get to know people a little bit more, or for them to get to know me a little bit more. And yeah, it's just as much fun getting to hang out with you every day, Michael. So this is just a whole new way for us to be awesome on a team.
Well, blessings on the rest of your Advent journey, and I hope you have a great Christmas. And for everybody who's watching, thank you so much for tuning in, and blessings on your Advent. And I hope you have a great Christmas. And make sure that you let your friends know about our Facebook page and our YouTube channel so they can tune in as well. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you next time.
See everyone. Merry Christmas.